Yeah.
Trey got benched. Why? Because he broke his ankle. And then Jimmy came out there. And then Jimmy got hurt. And then Brock came in there. And now Brock's hurt. And I'm watching the wear and tear that these guys take on their body in that quarterback, Doc. And you're seeing, like, Mariota had a knee injury. We didn't even know about the knee injury.
Torn meniscus. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, obviously, he's not the starter, and boom, he gets the surgery, and he's out for the year. And I'm sure all these guys have so many underlying injuries that we don't even know anything about. Every time Kirk Cousins goes to throw and gets hit under the ribs, you could hear and feel him wincing because he literally has broken ribs.
Mahomes in the Super Bowl, that rolled ankle again, the high ankle sprain. He was not crying, but he was screaming in pain the whole time. Yes. And these guys, what they're able to do and put their bodies on the line, it does give you pause for a guy, smaller frame, and Brock Purdy. And it's kind of crazy because we don't talk about this way with a guy like Jalen Hurts, but we're going to because he plays such a physical way. But when you look at the builds of a guy like a Brock Purdy compared to Jalen, you would think that Jalen, oh man, guy's way bigger. He's way more thicker, more cut, stuff like that. Look at the legs. You can see the squat videos. He squats like 600 pounds or something ridiculous. They're the same size and weight, which is pretty weird just looking at him. So Brock may be bigger than we all think, but it still does give you pause. He still is on the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to quarterbacks in size, arm strength, all that sort of stuff. So there are legit question marks when it comes to the quarterback position with the 49ers. And it feels like we've been asking this question since Steve Young's been out of here. But again, the quarterback position for the San Francisco 49ers, can you start 16 games? Can someone start 16 games? Because the last time that happened, Jimmy Garoppolo went to the Super Bowl.
The pain tolerance required at the position is unreal. Like, I knew you had to be tough.
Yeah.
I knew you had to be tough.
These are 300-pound men destroying you.
I so underestimated
300 pounds.
Did you underestimate it?
Yes.
The pain tolerance?
Yes. Yes, because I played football, PB football for like 2 years. That's it. I didn't play high school football. I could only imagine. Like, I don't play contact sports. I played water polo, a little bit of contact here and there, but not really. That's swimming around. That's treading water. Golf, no contact unless I'm ricocheting it off a tree and it's hitting me in the forehead, right? There's no contact there. Yes, tremendously. And I've never been in self-defense classes at shout out Evolve Training Center. Never done anything like that. Maybe I've gotten punched by my older brother once or twice, but no. I completely underestimate. I think most people are in my school too, that they don't understand the physical toll that this takes.
I think we think we know, which I thought I knew how much like pain tolerance it was. And then I'm watching this and I'm like, oh dude, this is insane. I mean, Kirk Cousins playing on Thanksgiving 4 days later.
Oh my God.
I'm just thinking to myself, Thursday Night Football, watching this doc, and again, not even a running back, not a linebacker, the quarterback who is protected more than almost anyone else on the field. And I'm saying to myself, this feels a little inhumane. Well, it's funny. I love my football.
Well, it's funny because, again, we're talking about the quarterback doc. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. Watch it. Highly recommend. Peyton Manning ran the whole thing, and it follows the lives of Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, Mariota on and off the field. And Kirk is tucking in his little boy, and they're reading the Sports Illustrated, like Know Your Rules or whatever the book. It's like it's all about rules and sports and stuff like that. And they're reading about Tom Brady and him getting hurt and how it led to not going after the knees. And Kirk's just saying like, and thank God for Tom Brady and that rule because Daddy thanks him every single day that he doesn't get his knees hit and his career ending prematurely. So it's wild. He even talks about it. Yeah.
So, and I know Steve Young sat down with Matt Mayoko on 49er Talk, and I was the one that was actually listening to it, and I sent it to Lucas, and I'm like, hey, we should cut some of this sound. And I was listening to Willard and Dibbs yesterday, and they were playing some sound, and there's a lot of stuff that I found to be very pertinent, but one of the many things, and this isn't the most important, we'll get to that in a second, but was about Brock Purdy and where he's at on the injury and the arm, and he was talking about how he's not going to be 100%. So I'd really like to listen to someone who understands the position and the physical toll and the pain tolerance and the balance of everything in Steve Young talk about Brock Purdy being ready for week one.
One thing's for sure is that if it stays on track, there is a 6-month period to kind of get it full strength. And the thing that's unusual is that he does it for baseball all the time. He's done it 3 or 4 times for football, but not in the car wreck scenario, the way that he described, what happened to Brock. And so he says it's just not sure. And I think no one can know exactly how it's going to go. So if Brock is ready game one, it's not going to be 100%. Anyone who says he can rip a pass 6 months later, I don't think it belies reality. It doesn't mean he can't play 90%. So we'll see how that goes. But if he's ready, I'm sure they'll play him.
Steve Young via the 49ers Talk podcast on NBC Sports Bay Area. Shameless shout-outs in 20 minutes, 888-957-9570.
And I find this to be, an interesting point because I think we all would agree Brock Purdy's your starter right now from what he did last year. But there is a real element to this physical thing. And look, are there outliers? Of course there are. There's no one is debating that there are like Drew Brees and Russell Wilson because you're going to get a lot of that. Bryce Young went number 1 overall. And I've got reservations about Bryce Young staying healthy, for the entirety of his career, right? But there's something about being big and strong that it makes sense because of the physical toll that you're seeing these guys go through. Kirk Cousins doesn't even look that big. He is 6'3", 200 pounds.
Yeah, you see him like these guys are all doing their weightlifting and all these. They're big guys. Yes.
Kirk's body is chiseled.
Yes.
Right?
All these guys are very in
chiseled. They're some of the biggest people you'd meet in your normal, walk of life. And I guess where I'm going at is once you start getting to 80%, 75% of your overall strength and being a bigger, stronger, more explosive athlete and then being hurt and diminished, it still gets you above some of the less skilled, less accomplished guys, and it allows you to be able to compete.
It's interesting. I go to the division, the AFC North, because if you're not big and strong and have a good arm, you ain't winning that division.
How are you ripping it in that cold weather?
Andy Dalton, he won a couple division titles, right? Or a couple playoff spots. No playoff games. None. Cold weather. Couldn't do it. Came up short a bunch. You know who didn't come up short in that division a lot? Big, strong guys. Joe Flacco, Ben Roethlisberger. And maybe you're saying, Joe, you're picking and choosing your spots because I could point to Drew Brees and he's had some cold playoff. Yeah, sure. They're the outliers. The big guys, the big arms, that's why they're drafted so high. No, Anthony Richardson, he wasn't very good in college. His tape will show you that he lost a lot of games at Florida. But the 3 or 4 games where he just looked outrageous, they're like, you know what? I can work with this guy. He has an arm. He's got the size. Yeah. He's got the speed. We can work with this. Josh Allen, Wyoming, 50% completion percentage. Yeah, we can work with this. You know why? He's big and strong. And he did it in the cold.
And it doesn't mean that they can play the position.
And again, you just mentioned Bryce Young went number 1 overall. Yes. Because the IQ is off the charts. The anticipation, the accuracy. Absolutely.
Guys are blessed with different things, right? Yes. They're blessed with it. Trey Lance is huge. Trey Lance has been hurt. Like every time he stepped on the football field. Yes. Right? He can't stay healthy. Marcus Mariota is a huge human being. I mean, you see, he's 6'4", he's 220 pounds.
He's big.
And I don't think he can play the position that well. No. Right? So it's not the end-all, be-all. You've got to be able to do both. You've got to be big and strong, and you got to be able to do this. And those guys are few and far between. That's why Mahomes is such a unicorn. He's big, and he's not the biggest guy on the team, but he's big, thick, and he can do all these things. I am worried about the 49ers quarterback position staying healthy this year. And like Brock Purdy, he's coming in with an injury. And you see, as the season progresses, do you get healthier or do you get more dinged up?
Is health the only thing standing in the way of the San Francisco 49ers winning a Super Bowl trophy this year? 888-957-9570.
I think it's elite, consistent quarterback play, period.
See, because I think you'll get at least above average play from one of these guys enough because I think Shanahan will put them in that position. I need a guy to start all the games. I need someone. I don't need, like, if Brock Purdy is not going to be there in the playoffs and he gets hurt halfway through the season or something and it's Trey Lance, I don't think they're winning, and vice versa. Like, I need someone to be there from start to finish. And whether that's Brock starting in week 2, but then finishing out, that's fine. But they need to be there from start to finish. They can't be missing these games throughout the year. It can't be happening.
The ability,
and it goes back to the offensive line, man. Like, that's a question mark. You got Trent Williams. You got Colt McKivitz on the right side. You trusting him, Joe Shasky?
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I know, Darth. I'm sorry.
I don't know, man. I just, as great at everything that Brock did last year was absolutely amazing, and I'm so optimistic for his future, and sky's the limit on a variety of things. Like when I watch the guy play, how can you not love what you're seeing? Decisive. Explosive within the pocket, being able to make guys miss. He doesn't take the big shots, you know what I mean, in terms of getting hit, which is awesome. But he is small. Like when you go to practice and you go out there, that doesn't mean he can't have a 10-year career and be awesome, but he is small. And I just worry it takes those one hits. And you can say the same thing about the 6'5" guys. Joe, it's one hit. There's no doubt about it.
I think of Drew Brees, what happened with him, and people have been comparing Brock Purdy, and it's totally unfair to Brock Purdy comparing him to a Hall of Famer and Drew Brees, but I guess the similar builds, and you can think of stuff like that. I think Drew Brees might even be like an inch or two shorter than Brock Purdy.
Drew Brees' accuracy was
unparalleled. Unparalleled. One of the greatest quarterbacks of my generation.
Been pretty accurate.
He's been no, he has been.
Pretty damn
we can only
accurate.
go off what we've seen from him, and he's been pretty damn good. I'll give him that. Hall of Famer, pump the brakes, and Drew Brees. But Drew Brees, to your point, once he hurt his shoulder, he had noodle arm, dude.
No.
He couldn't do anything.
No doubt.
He was done.
No doubt. And I think we keep coming back like Trey's injury prone. Brock is injury prone. No, football is violent. And playing offensive line is really difficult. One play, a guy splits through you, you fall or whatever. Like, stuff happens. Yeah. These are guys crashing into each other. It's really, 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 really difficult to stay 100% healthy. And so I'm very skeptical about the entire quarterback room in general, all of them.
I think you should be.
In terms of health.
Like, what has anyone showed you under Kyle Shanahan that gives you just positivity or reassurance that they're going to stay healthy? It's just, and I'm not saying it's Kyle Shanahan's fault. I'm not, but some of you may be like, hey, listen, and I've seen this on the text line. Sorry for
I think they're all go hand in hand. Wouldn't you say that?
Yes, but also there's an aspect to why are we running Trey Lance quarterback dives? Why are we doing why are we putting our guys in situations? That was a thing for a little bit.
No, I would say this is that look, I'm going all around on this because I was enraged, but I don't think your quarterback should be subjected to getting hit that many times, and you think that they're going to be upright, period. That's just there's a reason the running backs are all not getting paid, okay, because they're crashing into people 30 times a game.
And Kyle Shanahan knows better than anyone.
So you're going to have your most prized possession making the most, on most teams, making the most amount of money, subjected to that many hits out of the pocket and in the pocket. That's you're asking for trouble. So I don't care if it's Brock, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold. They cannot get hit. They can't get peppered. And that's on the offensive line. That's on coaching. That's on the player to get rid of the ball. That's on luck, right? Yeah. That's on ability to contort your body and not get shots. I want to see, is Brock going to be throwing on a side field next week?
Yeah.
Is he going to be like Jimmy G was last year? Is he going to be rehabbing on the JV field?
Ramping up? Is that the term?
I don't know. I want to see, what does Trey look like when in between plays? Not just is he throwing and is he accurate to his guys? In between plays, is he talking with his receivers? Is he talking to his offensive line? Is Sam Darnold got his teammates' ears? Is he talking to his offensive line? Is he talking to the coaches? What does the collaboration look like in between plays? Who's got the authority at the line? What's their cadence look like? Is the defense jumping when they're calling hike? Are they all over him? Is Fred Warner pointing at Trey Lance and he's rattled, or Sam Darnold's rattled? I want to see all of those things. Are they predicting where they're throwing the ball because their face mask isn't moving and it's locked onto their target? I'm so ready for next week to see all of these things.
Can't wait. 888-957-9570. And again, we're going to be there live. Morning Roast, Steiny Goo next Monday and Thursday live at the Hilton in Santa Clara. 888-957-9570. Again, shameless shout-outs here in about 8 minutes. We will get to you. Start lining them up. 888-957-9570. Hit us up on Twitch, on YouTube. We are live, up and streaming there. Download the Odyssey app. Favorite 95.7 The Game. Shout out anyone you want. What are you doing this weekend? What are you doing?
What did you make of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes talking about how the players get to call some of their own plays in terms of they get to create plays throughout the year?
I like that. It makes sure they're engaged.
Yes.
Right? That's what when you do that, it could either work very well or blow up in your face. But what that tells me is he has enough trust in his coaches and in his players that they can develop their own things going forward. And that's the mark of a Hall of Fame type of coach. I think there's a similar thing with Kyle Shanahan and what he built with a guy like Mike McDaniel. Mm-hmm. He gave Mike that kind of, freedom, and then and Mike can go down to whoever it was at the time. Well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I'm going to back myself up and back up the truck here. You can play the sounder. Does Kyle give that freedom to his quarterbacks?
Well, that's what I want to ask.
Is he the smartest guy and he doesn't give that trust to those type of offensive players? Actually, I will say what's right, and you don't. You just follow.
Well, I think two things can be true. I think Kyle is a brilliant play caller who a lot of the guys on the team have expressed outwardly many times that they trust his play calling and they love his play calling, and he's a scientist and all that stuff. And I also think at times he was forced to be rigid because he feared his quarterback making mistakes.
That's fine. And I caught myself in 4K there. I was like, you know what? Yes. And actually, I'm like, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe not. But to your point, If the quarterback is going to keep making mistakes, I got to take the ball out of his hands.
That's what I'm saying.
Then to your point, that's the thing.
Like, did you trust Jimmy Garoppolo? Like, when I'm watching these things, I just think Jimmy's very different than these other quarterbacks. But when I'm watching,
I would love Jimmy on the dock next year. By the way, it'd be fascinating.
Could you even imagine Jimmy G walking over to Debo? Hey, instead of running that slant, I want you to run a curl here.
Well, I'll say this: when he was quote unquote letting Jimmy cook last year when they got Christian McCaffrey, he looked pretty good. What did Jimmy say after the games? It feels good to be able to have more control over the offense. He was saying stuff like that, right? And he looked good.
Well, it felt like in year one, he was freelancing a lot, and that was the best version of Jimmy, backyard football. And that's why I thought he was always good in those 2-minute drills and late in games, like when they needed it.
Specifically the red zone, too. He was great.
Notwithstanding.
Well, obviously, but I think the torn ACL maybe had a little to do with that.
No doubt.
Yeah.
But I think as time went on, it did feel like the offense was restricted to, this is the play call, and you're going to run this play call and just this.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know. Like, and I keep going back to the art-science conversation, like the blend of it. I think Shanny is really deep into the science. And as he evolves and grows as a coach, I want to see how much art he incorporates into it.
It's interesting because we were watching, again, the quarterback doc, Kirk Cousins, very calculated, scientific numbers, talking, why is this happening? Why is that happening? He was getting his brain analyzed, like with certain things.
He's almost too analytical.
It's too much.
Would you agree?
A little bit. But you know what? If that's his process, that's his process. That's his thing. But I can see why Kyle loves that. I can see why Kyle Shanahan loves a guy like Kirk Cousins, because
he's not going to deviate.
Not going to deviate, and he thinks like Kyle does.
When Kirk Cousins throws in there, said, "Oh no!" Like the minute he throws it, and he says to himself, "Oh no!" Everyone can relate to that, right? You've done it in Madden. You do it in sports. Like, you make a play and you immediately regret it. I kind of love that about Kirk Cousins.